the bottom of the finished one, and here's the center bottom matching up that I've already knit. So we have this done. We have cast on here, which is the bottom of this main chart for the main border pattern for the Orenburg and Oregon shawl or wrap. And we've done 4 repeats of the pattern after the setup rows. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 points on my piece. And I've just ended after row 16, which is a wrong side row ending out near the points. And you can see that my yarn is there. Near the points, I just knit that row in turn, so I'm ready to knit the next row. So that will be done with a different chart. You'll notice I have a bunch of corner charts here, one for each corner. We're going to start with the lower right corner, which is this here. And we actually are only going to knit half of the corner as the turning part, and then the second half of the corner just becomes part of the main body of the shawl. So here we've got what you can see is essentially the same as the first 9 rows of the pattern, except for these little symbols here. And that's because we're going to turn in the middle. Whenever you turn in the middle of a row, and here it's not in the exact center, but it's before the end, that's what a short row is. It just means you're not knitting the whole row. A lot of times you'll do something special like wrap and turn or yarn overs or something, but here there is nothing special except that we turn, and these diamonds represent stitches that are not worked when we turn. So we're going to do the first row, and after we knit the 11th stitch, we're going to turn and then slip and do a plain row. It's the same as this, except we're stopping 1 stitch short. So here, I've got my slip one, and I'm slipping one purlwise as with the yarn in front, sliding the yarn to the back, and then I'm going to knit 2, yarn over, knit 3, knit 1, and turn. And then this row here is just ignore that because it's not worked. It's already on the right needle. Slip 1, knit across because the border's worked on garter stitch. So again, slip it purlwise with yarn in front and then knit across. So I work all the way across on all the wrong side rows going towards the points, but on the right side rows where I'm going towards the straight edge, here I'll be turning and several times before I get to the end of the row. This case, I'm not turning before the end of the row. I go all the way to the end and then turn. But those little turns there, that makes this gathered in corner, and that's what makes it fit around the corner. So that's all you do there. And then you follow this chart with that little difference until row 9 is done. So let me do that, and then I'll show you how to get across to work the other corner. Okay, here I've got this chart, lower right corner, done. And you can see I've got it coming out. It's like half of a point. And the second half of the point will come back in as it goes around the corner. You might notice there's a couple little holes where you turn because we didn't do anything special for the short rows, and they just disappear into the gathering when you block your piece. And don't worry if it doesn't lie flat or anything when you keep going, because it's going to be stretching around the corner. Now, we have to pick up stitches along this edge, but the way they do it on the Orenburg is not by starting here and picking up right in there. So we're going to turn to the other end of the piece. I'm going to get rid of the chart so you can see better. So I've got our needle with the stitches on the left, and we're going to take our other needle, and I'm using a circular sew, the other end of the needle, and we're going to go across the work here, and we're going to pick up the back loop of each of the cast on, the slip stitches on the edge. So that we start at the cast on edge. Here's our cast on edge, and we've worked back and forth across and made this, including the corner. And now we come back to the other end, and we're going to pick up the loops. See how we've got loops here? From these are the slip stitches that make this chain along the edge. We're only going to pick up one of them. And we're going to go all the way across, and you just pick them up by putting the needle in them from back to front so that it's oriented correctly as a normal stitch. If you look closely here, you can see when I stretch them out, they just look like stitches on the needle. So just go across like that, and when we get to the other end, then we'll turn and we'll knit into those. So it's basically a two-step process for picking up and knitting. This is the picking up part, and then the second part is the knitting part. And I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, I finished picking up all the way across, and I've come back. I've ended up where my yarn is. So I started on the far end. Remember, we turned, started at the cast on edge, picked up the one strand, come all the way across, and now I'm going to turn. So I'm ready to continue knitting on this. We'll put a marker here, and I don't have one right here, but you put a marker there, and then you knit across these picked up loops through the back, and that tightens them up and twists them so they don't look like a bunch of yarn overs. It gives a little more strength to the piece, and really the reason I'm doing it is because this is the traditional way to do it, and it's the way it is in the Gossamer Webs book, and I followed those instructions for my piece. So I'm going to go all the way across, and can you see how it makes little X pattern there? It doesn't show up very much, but you can see it a little bit perhaps here because the yarn's a light color. So I'm going to go all the way across to the other end, and then we'll be ready to do the lower left corner.